who are the top 10 most interesting characters going into Street Fighter 6, and why will these characters present such compelling reasons for being in the new game? And then finally, will Capcom be able to deliver on the previous promises they've made with this next title? So starting off here, I want to talk about the top 10 most interesting characters going into Street Fighter 6, John. But if everyone can crush the psycho crush the like button, there we go. That helps out what we're doing a ton. And I want to get right into it. Here at number 10, Akuma. Akuma becomes insanely powerful by the time Third Strike ends. He's destroying Ayers Rock in Australia. That thing is nearly 3,000 feet tall. It's huge. And then he also destroys a ship. Suffice to say, Akuma is very powerful, and I can see the good guys uniting to try and take him down. But the one thing is Akuma only seeks out warriors at around his power level to kill, right? That's kind of like his saving grace. But he's also destroying rocks and ships and other stuff like that. So maybe Akuma's gone a little bit crazier than he already is. And the good guys kind of need to kind of like, go around and kind of take him out. Like I could see, I think there's going to be another bad guy, which we'll get into here for Street Fighter 6, but Akuma's only growing in power and he seems to be going a little bit more crazy. So I do think there's a potential there for actually Capcom to set up Akuma as a boss type of character. And that makes him very interesting to me.
Well, and I think Akuma's usually a boss, or at least like a hidden boss. And he's always one of the most powerful if he's not outright made to be, like the Shin version of himself. But what you're saying there, I think, kind of lines up with what we've seen before with him and what Capcom often uses as the bad guy force in their games, and that is like chaos unleashed, and the good guys have to sort of corral the chaos and bring it in, and I think that was very prominent in Street Fighter V story, right, where they're trying to literally stop the psycho power, causing chaos and therefore growing,
moons,
and all the moons and whatnot. But like with Akuma, I don't know if it's canon because it's happened in Street Fighter 4 or not. I don't think it is, but him evolving into Oni when he completely, is consumed fully by the Satsui no Hado, that sort of sounds like the direction that you're going with that. And then like if Akuma were to evolve into Oni, first of all, people would be pissed because I don't think they want to see Oni. I think they'd want to see Akuma, so that would be an issue. But then having everybody have to go, we have to go solve the Oni problem because he's just out there, wrecking everything, would be interesting. And Akuma's always a hot character.
Yeah.
So
he mostly operates in the shadows, so we'll see if Capcom actually brings him out and makes him a forefront, bad guy. But
have him actually kill someone with the Raging Demon and actually be scary.
He's a weak character. So at number 9, we have Sagat. And Sagat has had one of the more compelling journeys in all of the franchise. He's starting off as one of the most powerful fighters in the entire universe in Street Fighter 1. Then he becomes a bad guy again, more of a bad guy, I guess, by joining up with Bison and Shadaloo, only to leave all that behind and then succumb to the Dark Hado like Ryu did. He's still fighting it the last we see, and Ryu and Sagat actually working closely together to overcome the Satsui no Hado. It might be a really cool way to kind of tie these characters in and actually have a full-on redemption arc for Sagat. Formerly Dishonored, he could work his way actually into being a good guy or maybe more of an anti-hero type of character. Because he's not a full-on good guy. He's more of like, hey, I've had a checkered past, but now I kind of want to redeem myself. And that actually makes him a fairly interesting character, in my opinion.
I think Sagat is, I'd have to sit and think about it in order to say concretely, but off the top of my head, Sagat's the most interesting character in Street Fighter's stories. The reason why is because he has constant change. Well, maybe not constant, but he has very significant change over his arc, and that's what you just talked about. He starts as a bad guy. He starts at one point, and then he learns lessons. And not only that, Capcom brilliantly portrays the lessons Sagat has learned visually on him. He's got this scar. He's got this eye patch. Those are both lessons, and you can. I did a story a year or so ago based on the eye patch and such, and how that's tied to the inability to pay attention and the consequence that comes from that. And it's like he will always remember because he's got that eye thing. And I would like to see them add something else visually on him. It doesn't necessarily have to be a wound, although the first two are, but it's something that changes about him physically that shows yet another evolution in his character progression. He is a sexy character, a sexy character story. I don't know. He's good. I like him.
He's sexy. That's what we're getting at, right?
Sagat is sexy.
Yeah. He actually, unlike most of the characters in the game, he actually has a plot arc. Most other characters are kind of a plot flat line. They don't actually go anywhere. They just kind of start at the same spot and then end at the same spot.
I don't know who I am, and I like dogs.
Yeah.
Now I found a dog, but I do not know who I am.
Yeah.
Been
amazing.
As
Yes.
Abel from Street Fighter 4.
Yes. Yeah. So getting in here, another character of interest, number 8, we have Oro. Oro takes center stage at the end of Street Fighter V's existence, being involved with numerous characters like Dalsum, Minot, Rose, G, and others. Not only
Can
that,
I just jump in here and say we don't need Oro can be a story character. I don't think we need Oro in the game. I know that he's kind of wonky and stuff, but like, okay, fair enough. Bring him in as the old hermit story character and make something different about him this time, by the way. But like, I don't think he needs to be in the games anymore.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
I'm kind of the same mind as you. I'm not big on his design. Bringing him back to Street Fighter V was a good idea. But what Oro does have going for him is he's very central to Street Fighter 3 and where the plot is going overall. Oro is expected to hand the reins off to Ryu at some point, basically to say like, Ryu, you're the most powerful fighter in the universe, like me. Here it is. You know, I'm 130 years old, or like 150 or whatever by the time Street Fighter 6 rolls around. Maybe he's already dead. And he's got to basically hand off what he's doing there. And one of the things about Oro is he manipulates Ryu and all the other good guys to be in the roles that he thinks they should be in, right? And Oro's actually kind of a jerk in some regards. He kind of portrays himself as like, you know, humble and other stuff, but he's got machinations coming out his ears where he's trying to put everyone in different spots. Like he apparently has a fight with Alex in Third Strike, or in the Street Fighter 3 games, I should say. And he doesn't even show up for it so Alex can win the tournament, right? Like he's just flat out doing all the stuff in the FGC that we hate. You know, like when people show up like for a tournament match or whatever, like they beat you a couple times and they don't show up for their match and they just get DQ'd. That's never happened before to us personally. But we've heard of it happening to other people. You're smiling there, John. So I'm going to move on before we bury ourselves further and get into number 7. But before I do that, I just want to say that Oro's got a lot of stuff, but I agree with him not being a playable character. You can make him interesting outside of his gameplay. I don't know if his gameplay is that interesting. They tried in Street Fighter V, but I do think his story is interesting.
Yeah, and a good change he could go through would be that he could die.
Yeah, he's ready to die. So, all right, number 7, we've got Colleen. We finally have a subordinate character who's highly capable in Colleen. We've seen people like Vega, Balrog, and Fong pretty much just be whipping boys over the years, and they've never really done much in the game themselves. Like that, they just pretty much are there to get their butts kicked. Colleen is different. She resurrected Nash. She manipulated him into helping to destroy Bison, which set up her boss Gil for much greater things. She misled a big group of our heroes into doing what was best for the Illuminati, her organization. She's actually capable, and she has a mysterious backstory all of her own that we haven't fully explored yet. Colleen is one of the biggest success stories of Street Fighter V from a character standpoint, and I think she could have a really cool future.
She was like the right hand of Gil, and then she literally changed who she was, or he changed who she was. There's probably a good bit more to read into there that I haven't done yet, but yeah, she was a success, and yes, she did a lot, especially relative to most of the rest of the characters, so I'll give you that. I think that she could take this momentum, and we could give her another shot here in Street Fighter 6. I think we're leaning forward in our seats enough for that, but I wouldn't give her any more than that. It's not proven otherwise, but we'll see.
Yeah, I could kind of actually see Blanca jumping out of nowhere and tackling Colleen right into a pit of lava right at the start of Street Fighter 6, and they both unceremoniously die. Because shoutouts to Gollum and shoutouts to Capcom, because they're like, we finally have something good to work with. Let's just, whatever. It's gone. Colleen's dead. So anyway, moving on to number 6. I've got Rose. Rose may be one of the main vehicles that Street Fighter 6 uses to traverse through the timeline. Only a few characters are actually capable of time travel in this franchise, and before Street Fighter 5, we didn't know that anyone could do that at all, right? So it's basically like Rose and Zeku, and that's it. Rose will likely be used to go back through various moments in the franchise, and her perspective and possibly interactions with past characters are going to create and recreate some major moments in the franchise. Like, we're going to see major stuff go down with Rose. Hoping, again, they go back to Sagat getting a scar, Bison's rise to power. There's all this other kind of stuff. And so even if Rose can't manipulate through time travel or whatever. She can only view it. It's still going to be interesting, and she's going to be one of the more compelling characters that we see here.
Oh no, I just had an idea. You know how like in Smash Bros, especially like even back in Melee, they had those situational. I mean, they do it in modern Smash as well, like situational battles and such. If they did that in Street Fighter, but the situation was based around like the moment Sagat got his scar and something you had to like, you know, there's an objective to do within this, and that's starting to almost get away from fighting games a little bit. But fair enough. That's interesting, and that might be something that, you know, we talked about in our last video, how you would appeal to a newer crowd with old school, like a reimagining of what Street Fighter, at least its one player modes, might be. So
Yeah, well, I mean, what if you had to hit like a frame perfect shuriken on Sagat to give him a scar? You know, like you had to
and just
actually
part of training mode, that'd be cool too.
Yeah, well, it's a, you know, like kind of like maybe a quick time event or something like that where it's kind of scripted. You get to fight Sagat, and then you have an opportunity to give him a scar, and you've got to land it. You know, and it's you know, tying it, making good, compelling single player content that actually makes you better at the game, right? And it's actually fun to do. You know, like that. It's not everyone could do a shuriken like frame perfect, right? But if you can, you give Scott a scar, and you're out of that time travel loop. You're good to go. You know, like a lot of fun stuff they can have, and hopefully as fun as number 5 here on the list, and that would be Jury. One thing about Jury is if there's an active plot thread going around with people trying to take over the world, she's been involved with it. She seems to always be a major player in all the evil kind of plot threads going on, but her kind of going rogue and doing her own thing. And she's one of the more popular characters in the franchise overall. She also likely won the Street Fighter 5 or Street Fighter 4 tournament by delivering the killing blow on Seth, and she's actually got heavy ties to the Illuminati as well. If you're looking for trouble, Jury is going to help you find it.
She's got her hands in all the trouble pots for sure, huh?
Yeah.
And she's also beloved, right? Like you don't need you don't need an excuse to put Jury in, and they have plenty already. So I think for sure she's going to be around. She might be a staple character, and if not, definitely DLC. She's too hot for too many reasons, and well, as you're saying here, easy enough to fit into the story. So yeah, I don't disagree. But something needs to change about her. Maybe it's just her gameplay. I'm not sure.
Yeah, she'll just lose the other eye and get the other one replaced and patch it up and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so yeah. They'll have good stuff with Jury. So beyond her eye, I hope. But anyway, number 4.
Maybe it's a character like personality change because her personality has been so the same. Like maybe she goes through something that changes her outlook on life, or I think that's the next interesting thing to do with Jury. But also at the same time, you can't go away from what makes the character unless you want a whole lot of angry letters from fighting game fans.
Well, following up on that, actually, I look at Jury as an agitator with the plot. She helps move stuff along so well, and she oftentimes operates on her own, and she can do really compelling stuff just by disrupting characters' plans and trying to get her own agenda across. And I think that really gives her a good operating, space to work with, but it also fits her personality really well, which her personality is pretty beloved in my opinion. So I wouldn't want to see Capcom change that. I just want to see them put Jury in more situations where she can really flourish and get out there and really be that disruptor. So at number 4, we've got Gil. Taking over the world and starting a new society of all-powerful people is a difficult task. It's full of murder, rigging tournaments, and general mayhem. I'm not talking about FGC tournaments. I'm talking about Gil. This should create all sorts of opportunities for Gil to really end up being a just central figure in Street Fighter 6, and he may end up going head to head against G at some point as the two major bosses of the future kind of square off. Gil may even emerge as a main new boss again. I know clearly he was that in Street Fighter 3, but he's definitely going to be in the running as a central figure. He's highly intelligent, he's highly capable, and he uses his wits and literal godlike powers to move the chess pieces around the board to manipulate people. He's a really interesting figure, and does it not only through his force but through his wits.
Yeah, he's metaphorical as AF. And also, I think that in terms of the Gil G storyline, which is something that Street Fighter V has kind of turned us on to, like, let's have an expectation about how that goes. G in and of himself, but then also, Gil's like just kind of this, you can't really divorce him from the story with where it's at right now. And I think that Gil wins that fight and turns G into Q in some way. And you could also do a cool graphical thing with a G morphing into being a Q. But like with G's, his alternate costume where he's Q in Street Fighter V, that needs to be attended to in some way, because that I don't think that that's ever been addressed, except for the fact that it exists, and you can't just do that and say like, well, this character's sort of shaped the same way, so you're wearing Q stuff. It's like, nah, and especially in this day and time, there's a reason you did that, and we want to know what the reason is. Even if you did originally do it with just, oh, we could do this and people would like it, well, now make it part of that damn story.
Gotcha. Yeah. So at number 3, we've got Luke. John, Luke has a very bright future in front of him, and he gets to third on my list here for a couple of reasons. One, Capcom said he's going to be a big part of a new game, so I'm taking them at their word, and there's no possible way that could ever go wrong. So, secondly, he looks vastly different in Street Fighter 6 compared to, he was basically little more than a boy in Street Fighter 5, right? He just, kind of comes of age. He gets in the military and other stuff. Now he's got scars, and he looks way more like the Joker from the Batman franchise than I thought could be possible. And there should be a really compelling jaunt through Luke's story, and hopefully it has a nice payoff for fans of the series. But I don't want to add any more fuel to the fire here, as I'm already placing a lot of faith in Capcom to deliver with this guy. Do you think Capcom's actually going to deliver with Luke here, and they're going to actually follow up? I've got him at number 3. Do you think I'm off base there?
They've told us directly, look at this guy, he's important. And then, like you're saying, there's a big evolution and in his visuals in the transition from 5 to 6, and the nature of the scars and the facial expressions that he makes in the trailer do come across as more evil, more like chaotic. And like the allure of him turning evil or him being corrupted away is like that immediately grabs my attention. So I hope that they do something like that with him, because like Luke now, he's like a young kid that's always annoying because he's like 20 and Louis
Get
CK
off
has
my
a pretty
lawn,
good bit
my
on that.
landscaping, you damn kids.
Yeah, well, yes. And then I threw my hip out. But no, like he is kind of annoying in that he's a really good character, and he's just got that stupid face with the stupid hair, and you want to punch him in his braces and give him those scars. And man, if that happens in Street Fighter 6's story, like he got the scars because he got uppercutted in the face and it was a frame perfect. Maybe that's after you beat Sagat and you give him his scar. The next level's Luke, and you got to give him his facial scars by frame perfectly tattooing his face. I guess that's how I feel about Luke.
Okay, good to know. At number 2, we've got Chun-Li. This woman defeats the most powerful crime syndicate in the history of the franchise, Shadaloo, except that hasn't really happened on screen in a way we're expecting it to. Perhaps this was the end of Street Fighter V already, but the way it was told by Urian, it seems like Chun-Li led more of a direct charge here, wiping out the rest of the crime organization following Bison's death. It seems like Chun-Li has more of a role to play here as an Interpol agent and other stuff. And she's also voiced by Laura Bailey, who's one of the most acclaimed voice actresses in the entire business right now, and who's won multiple awards for her performances. And outside of Ryu, this is Capcom's most dominant presence in the franchise. And all things are pointing to her having a major impact on the game this time around. There's a lot for her to do.
Mm-hmm. And we are very much now in a time where media, television, movies and such, women are delivering the final blows. Women are leading the charge. And you almost have to, and like a lot of it falls into this, like, you just put a girl there because you want to and stuff. But when it's well done, like I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm watching a show right now where they've very much qualified and made this a legitimate story where a woman rises up to lead the team, and you're like, absolutely. That really flows in the direction that society is flowing right now. And so I have a hard time imagining like Capcom missing that completely here in 2022. I think Chun-Li is going to be the one that delivers the final blow, that makes a lot of the big decisions, that leads the team in a more significant way than she ever has before. And she has been set up to do that. Yeah. We've known that Bison killed her family on a Tuesday so long ago, and that she's been on this revenge trip for so long. And it's time for the strongest woman in the world to be the strongest woman in the world, or it's an opportunity for that in a way that we've never seen before. So I hadn't thought about it before, but now that you bring it up, yeah, all eyes on Chun-Li for some big moves in SF6.
Hopefully, yeah, they've been setting it up for a long time. They've got to pay it off now, and let's see it. But at number 1,
it's the time to do it.
Yep. Number 1, previously mentioned, G and Q. Shoutouts to Capcom saying that in making Necalli the boss of Street Fighter V, and then changing their minds later and making it G and announcing it randomly on a website, not even in the game, because sure. Here's the thing about G, though, is obviously he's heavily based on Q. And Q is maybe the single most mysterious playable figure in the entire Street Fighter series. Q murders people. There appears to be multiple of Q of him that can appear in multiple locations at one point in time. And oh yeah, he might also be G or related to G. He's got a lot going on with him.
And the guy in the background of Ken's stage in SF2, if they tie that guy into this story too, hats off Capcom. All the negative things I've ever said about your story telling skills out the window. We'll start fresh there.
There we go. So G is also insanely powerful, and according to Rose, he's going to destroy the world or the universe if left unchecked. Very few people can actually pull that off. Most people don't have the power to do that. So we never got to see GRQ realized fully in Street Fighter V. Far too many things stood in their ways, but if Capcom plays their cards right, they should be able to have an outstanding presence in the new game. This should be a home run for Capcom, finally getting past Bison, and I'm sure Bison's going to come back in, various time travel modes and other stuff like that. Like how could you not have Bison in this game, right? But the future Bison should be dead. Like by the time Street Fighter 6 rolls around, Bison should be dead. Not mostly dead, but fully dead. And then so G and Q need to rise up and be that presence here. John, do you think we're going to get a strong villain that we actually care about killing and wiping out? Do you think that they can deliver?
If we're in the best timeline, yes, and things are primed for that. I'm again cautiously optimistic that Capcom will now, like, they've done a decent job setting these kind of things up for us. Will they knock them down now? Like, well, they've set it up, give us what we want, like they've done, shave and a haircut, give us the bump, and not the bump. Sorry. So yeah, I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna, you know what? Good energy, good vibes. Power of suggestion. Capcom's going to knock it out of the park.
All right. Ain't no possible way Street Fighter 6 is going to...